What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from Mtg, and I got some Thursday Ixalan spoilers for you. And there's some actually kind of game-changing stuff today, and kind of a lot of it too. So, without further ado, go ahead and jump into it. Let's look at some cards. Okay, so the first thing I want to look at is Argel's Bloodfast right here. It's 2 mana, 1 and a black for a legendary enchantment. You don't see those every day, but we'll see 2 today, so there's that. It's 1 and a black, pay 2 life, draw a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 5 or less life, you can transform it into Temple of Aklazats. There's a lot. All these legendary lands have names that I know I'm pronouncing wrong, but anyway, it's a legendary land. You can tap it for a black, or you can tap it and sack a creature to gain life equal to the sacked creature's toughness. Okay, so this is a fun card. Both sides are essentially callbacks, but to different cards. The first side, Bloodfast, is basically a greed, but kind of better in a lot of ways. It's just much cheaper to cast, and that's awesome. And the other half is a Diamond Valley. That's also pretty cool. The question is, are cards like Greed good in modern-day Magic? I'm not too sure about that. Greed was always okay, and of course there's cards like Yawgmoth's Bargain and Necropotence that are more or less legendary, ironically, at this point. Much more legendary than a card like Greed, which it has its place. But nowadays, I'm just not sure that effects like this are worth it, especially if you have to pay mana for them. It's just not really what I'd want to be doing on turn 2, and yeah, you can play this turn 4, turn 5, 6, whatever, but I think that once you get later on in the game, you have a harder time paying life for an effect like this. And sure, a combo deck could use it, and I just don't know what you'd use the other half for, you know. It could work out, but do note, by the way, that the transform is a May effect. It's not that you have to transform it when you hit 5 or anything, so you can just keep the first half all game if that's what you're into. It all depends, again, on like if a combo deck can utilize this. I'm just not seeing it at first glance. Here's Ravenous Daggertooth right here. Cool name. It's 3 mana, 2 and a green for a 3/2 dinosaur with Enrage. Whenever Ravenous Daggertooth is dealt damage, you gain 2 life. In Limited, this is probably fine if you're trying to put together a dinosaurs deck and you're just not getting those like early and mid drops that you want. There's not a whole lot of those, so a card like this is a pretty good curve filler that may help you race if whatever you're playing against is pretty aggro. So, card is definitely at least worth a look in Limited, but I do not see it in Standard Dinosaurs anytime soon. Check out Raptor Hatchling right here. It's 2 mana, 1 and a red for a 1/1 dinosaur with Enrage. Whenever Raptor Hatchling is dealt damage, create a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token with Trample. Neat. So 2 mana 3/3 that you have to like chump block for, or just like run it in and hope that it gets blocked or something. Like, that's actually not so terrible, and we are looking for 2-drop dinosaurs for that deck, but I'm not 100% sure that this cuts the mustard. You know, although again, 2 mana 3/3, it's pretty likely. And yeah, there are people like Timmy's and Johnny's and stuff are talking today about how you can like make this indestructible and then ping it 3 or 4 times and just get all the dinosaurs. Like, that could work maybe in Commander if you set it up right, but I don't think it's going to happen in Standard. I don't think. Like, we have, I guess, Heroic Intervention, and then you start doing your tricks, but just so much setup for like 3/3/3s. I don't know if it's going to happen. Here's Ranging Raptors right here. It's 3 mana, 2 and a green for a 2/3 dino with Enrage. We've seen a lot of those today. Whenever Ranging Raptors is dealt damage, you may search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. Everyone's calling it Ranging Raptors, which is awesome. That's a good name. It's cute. I do think this card is actually the real deal for serious. Like, I think it's better than like Beneath the Sands or anything else that you'd play for 3 mana in the Dinosaurs deck that specifically you want to ramp with. This is easily the best option. You get some Dinosaur synergy, you get a body to chump block with if that's what you want to do, you know. It's just, this card looks pretty easily abusable. Even if you just get 1 land out of it, then that's fine. I think that's enough value right there, but if you get like more than 1 land out of it, then this card is like, the ceiling on it is very high. That's all I'm saying. More than 1 land is insane value. It's like, even the floor on the card is kind of good. Like, the absolute floor is that it gets, like, Fatal Pushed and you don't get anything out of it. But at that point, it's still draw and removal. And if they do use, like, a Braid, Harness Lightning, any red removal, Lightning Strike, what have you, then, like, it's draw and removal, and you've gotten some ramp out of it. So even if it dies without chump blocking or getting to attack or anything, then it's still kind of done some work for you. Rough translation here. This is McGann's Murder Vona. It's 5 mana. That's 3, a black and a white for a 4/4 legendary Vampire Knight. That's cool. It's got Vigilance and Lifelink, and you can tap it and pay 7 life to destroy target non-land permanent. Activate this ability only during your turn. I've seen a lot of people more or less bemoaning the fact that this doesn't like lift up the tribe in any way. A lot of people are like, well, this is going to be our commander, that it needs to do stuff for vampires. This is a classic argument. I think that at this point, like, it would be, yes, it would be very nice for commanded players to get another, I guess, vampire. Like, you already have Edgar, and he's pretty sweet. But I guess if you wanted to, it'd be nice to have another, you know, white-black vampire legend that specifically helps the tribe in some way. But I'm just stoked that this looks like maybe at first glance a pretty hype card for Constructed. Now, I do have issues with it. It's a 5-mana guy that doesn't do anything when it enters the battlefield, you know. Gotta wait a whole turn to actually use its, like, Vindicate ability. And you have to pay 7 life. Like, that's so much life. So much life. Like, in the vampire deck, you're looking to gain life. That's part of the vampire sort of mechanic. It's their whole steez in this set, is gaining life. So, you could hit this 2 or 3 times at the very most in a game and still have some life left, but I'm just not really sure how good that actually is. Like, if you really need to get rid of something right now and 7 life won't kill you, then maybe, but end of the day, man, I'm not sure. Like, this is still decent for Commander, though. Whether it's your Commander or it's just in your Edgar deck, 7 life goes a lot farther in Commander. Definitely. And on raw stats alone, you could do worse than a 5-mana 4/4 Vigilance lifelink. Like, you could do better, too, but you could do worse, honestly. 5-mana 4/4 Vigilance lifelink is good enough even if you never tap it. At least in Vampire Tribal, it probably is. Now, full disclosure, before we go on, the rest of the cards are all previewed from MTG Digital Arena, which is a new thing that Wizards of the Coast is doing, and I could go in depth on that, but it probably requires like a whole other video because there's a lot of information regarding what that is and what the implications of it are and what it means for MTGO and what it means for the community at large. There's just so much to talk about with this Digital Next product. That's more or less what it is. Pros and cons. There are pros to this, there are cons to this, but I'm not going to go into all of that right now because this is an Ixalan spoiler preview video thing. It's not really a MTG Digital Arena video, so we may talk about that at a slightly later date, not too far in the future. But for now, I'm just going to cover all these cards that were previewed from it because they're all going to be in Ixalan, and some of them are actually pretty hot. The first thing you'll notice as we move through these is that the card images look a little bit weird, definitely. But I can assure you, one way or the other, that these are for real, authentic, 100% actual preview cards from Wizards of the Coast officially. So just keep that in mind. But as far as the card itself, in limited environments, 1-mana guys that can get Death Touch are always really dangerous, especially in a format full of like 5, 6, 7, 12, whatever mana guys that we see in Ixalan, like all these huge dinosaurs. You can't just run them in against this little Death Touch insect. So that's pretty cool. Here's Grazing Whiptail right here. It's a dinosaur. It's 4 mana. That's 2 and 2 green for a 3/4 reach, and that is what that card does. Here's Thundering Spineback right here. The last card spoiled chronologically today. It's 7 mana, 5 and 2 green for a 5/5 dino that gives other dinosaurs you control +1/+1. Neat, an Anthem for 7 mana. You can pump 4 mana into it, 3 and a green, to create a 3/3 dinosaur creature token with trample. So essentially a 4/4. So in Draft and Sealed, I think this is actually a really good option if you don't get like better 7-mana options at Rare. This is a really good uncommon to sort of build around if you're doing dinosaurs, you know, especially in Draft when you get a little bit more options, a little bit more agency over your tribal deck, you know, then something like this can be really good if you get the ramp for it. So I'm not like all in for it. It's not going to be in standard dinosaurs. I really don't think they want a 7-mana Anthem. I don't think that. So, but again, in Limited, this looks like a great top of the curve thing. Here's Commune with Dinosaurs. That's the actual name of the card. It's 1 green mana for a sorcery. Look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a dinosaur or land card from among them and put that card into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So if we're not going to get a 1-drop for the dinosaur deck, which is kind of looking bleak, we'll see though. There's still time. But even if we don't, then this is a great 1-drop spell for the dinosaurs deck. You know, getting this on turn 1 is kind of better than Oath of Nissa in some ways for that deck. So we'll probably see play. I mean, just almost definite guaranteed card advantage for 1 mana on turn 1, or you can squeeze it on top of other plays in the mid game. Like all of that is pretty good. I mean, essentially draw a card for the dinosaur deck is probably going to be wanted. Here's Otepec Huntmaster right here. It's 2 mana, 1 and a red for a 1/2 human shaman with dinosaur spells you cast costs 1 less to cast. And you can tap it to give a dinosaur haste until end of turn. That seems fair. What did I just say? The dinosaur deck is kind of filling up on slots. You know, this is like one of the reasons that I don't think that like 2-mana 1/1 that makes a 3/3 when it dies we'll see play, like, at all. I think that between this and Drover of the Mighty and perhaps even Pillar of Origins, like, we've got kind of a lot of 2-mana ramp that we want to fit into that deck. Like, definitely have to try to play this, right? Just guaranteed ramp for your dinos, and you can give them haste all on the same guy, and you play it early game. Like, just slam dunk, man. Slam dunk alongside Drover. This is probably another 4 of. At least in initial testing, you're going to have to try that. Just, that's so much ramp. It's so much ramp. It's beautiful. Check out Fell Flagship right here. It's 3 mana for a vehicle. It's a 3/3 that you can crew for 3. And it's got pirates you control get +1/+0. Neat. And whenever Fell Flagship deals combat damage to a player, that player discards a card. You know what I was saying earlier about 3-drops for the dinosaur deck? I was kind of having that same problem with 3-drops for the pirates deck, to be honest. Like, there's some good-looking stuff. Like, I like Ruin Raider. I like the new Jace, maybe, but I don't think that'll end up happening. Like, there are some good 3-drops. Captain Lannery Storm. We've seen things, but I just wanted a really powerful 3-drop, and this looks like it might be what we play, but there are definite downsides to it. First of all, a slight con is that crew 3 is a lot, but a pro is that it helps itself get crewed, right? It gives all your creatures a little bit more power, and that makes them more able to crew it. I think that's kind of cool, but if you do swing in with it and make it a creature, then you really run the risk of losing your Anthem, you know? It's just pretty easy to remove with a lot of removal in the format. But there's risk-reward to it here, because the pro is that if you can run it in against the control deck and actually hit with it, making them discard a card is really big. However, against aggro decks, like the polar opposite of control, I'm not sure how much we want a +1/+0 boost. I'm not really sure how much it helps us. And I'm not really sure how great its combat damage ability is either. It just seems like sort of a dead play against other aggro decks on turn 3. I might be wrong, but it looks that way to me, at least. So I'm just not quite sure how much of a place this is going to find in the Pirates deck. We've been looking for like a really quality 3-drop, and this looks like one of the strongest things we've seen, but end of the day, man, I'm just not really sure how well it's going to work. It looks great to a lot of players, don't get me wrong, but logistically, from what I've seen of that Pirates deck so far, I'm just not 100% sure that this is where we want to be. Here's Chart a Course right here, the penultimate card of the day. It's 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a sorcery. Draw 2 cards, then discard a card unless you attacked with a creature this turn. So you've seen a couple of cards in the last few days that are like strictly better than older cards. You know, like we saw Strictly Better Hunt the Week. We've seen multiple Strictly Better Stormcrows, lol, at this point. But this is a Strictly Better Tormenting Voice, which is actually really important, I think. And I love the amount of choice that comes with this. If you do want to dump stuff into your graveyard, you can totally loot. That's fine. We don't care. Or it could just have raid. It's like a sorcery with raid. I think that's cool. If you have attack with a guy, then you get just straight up card advantage. 2 cards for 2 mana is really, that is a freaking good raid, especially in standard Magic. So yeah, this will probably fit into something. You know, it looks like it goes in Pirates, right? I'm not sure, again, that the deck has the slots for it. That deck looks like it doesn't want to play that many like non-creature spells, especially since you have to use that new Cavern of Soul, Unclaimed Territory. You have to use that, so you have to have a really high creature count. So I'm just not 100% that Pirates plays it, even though it looks pretty good in that deck. It also looks like it might go in blue-red spells like any Prowess deck, but then you have an issue. But I think that issue kind of just boils down to choice. You know, you can play Tormenting Voice essentially pre-combat main phase and give all your Prowess guys a boost, or you can attack and just get straight card advantage for a really low price on your second main phase, but it won't affect like your attackers that turn. So I'm just not really sure how good that is in Prowess decks either. But, you know, we'll have to wait and see, man. Like, the card just looks straight up insanely powerful, but it has to fit in the build first. Here's the last card of the day right here. It's Growing Rights of, I'm gonna attempt this. Growing Rights of Ixalan. That's not right. That can't be right. But still, Growing Rights is 3 mana, that's 2 and a green for another legendary enchantment. Check that out. When Growing Rights of Ixalan enters the battlefield, look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And at the beginning of your end step, if you control 4 or more creatures, transform Growing Rights into Ixalan, Cradle of the Sun. This is a legendary land that taps for a green, or, if you wanted to, taps for a green for each creature you control. Okay, so I'll be the first to admit that I've been pretty hard on these like transform into legendary land cards. Like the flavor is so cool, and the new frame is awesome on the transform lands. Like I really like the idea of it, all that, but I have not been a fan of really any of them, and I was really ready to just knee-jerk, be like, oh, it's another one of these, stupid. But actually, the more I think about it, this card is easily the best of this cycle that we've seen so far. This card is not necessarily broken, but almost. First of all, for the uninitiated, Gaea's Cradle is one of the most busted cards of all time, easily, literally. Like, just having like an almost functional reprint of it is crazy. And this is one of the easier ones to flip that we've seen so far, I'd say. There are probably ways to finagle 4 creatures into play by the end of your 3rd turn. Probably, but there's 100 million ways to get 4 creatures by the end of your 4th end step. So you can either play this on turn 3 or even play it on turn 4, leaving a mana up to play a 1-drop or whatever you need to do at that point. If you play it on turn 3, then you could just go like turn 4, Shram's Expertise, the free card is a creature, boom, end step you get to flip this thing over. That would also be pretty insane. You know, very, very easy to flip this by your 4th end step is all I'm saying. And then when you untap on turn 5, you can make all the mana in the world. Like, especially if a couple of your dudes that flipped it are mana ramp guys, Drover of the Mighty, Servant of the Conduit, whatever, then you can pretty easily get to 10 mana by turn 5, and that's kind of crazy. It's good that Ulamog's leaving. But that's all the spoilers for today. There were kind of a lot of them. There were like 13, 14 spoilers today. That's a good amount. So, sorry if the video ran a little bit long, but a lot of these are really, really interesting. Today was a fun day, you know, and I mean, say what you want about Magic Digital Arena, you know, whatever. But I have things to say about it, don't get me wrong. Again, I think there are pros and cons, but just as far as the cards that were previewed today, yeah, a lot of these look really, really interesting. And it's sort of, again, I've said this at the beginning of the video, they're game changers for specific decks, especially dinosaurs. We got to go back and really look at that deck now. So let me know how you felt about all these down there in the comments section. What did I miss? What have I misevaluated? And even what am I right about? You can make me feel better if you want to. You can also do that, by the way, by just hitting like on the video, and you make sure that you sub and hit the bell, because there's still going to be more spoiler videos. We've only seen like half of the set at this point. Sounds crazy, but we've only seen like half of the set. So make sure you sub if you're new, because there's going to be plenty more videos at this point. You can also follow us on Twitter at SBMTGDev, or if you really want to, you can kick us a buck on Patreon at patreon.com/SBMTG. But for now, I got to get out of here. Let me know how you feel about all these in the comments section, and I will catch you cats later. I'm Dev from The Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards. This video is brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com, where you can already get Ixalan singles at pre-order prices. And some of these are looking really good. Like, you want to play that Vampires deck now because you just saw that 5-mana legend that looks pretty cool. Well, you got to pick up your Sanctum Seekers. Another pretty sweet looking drop for the Vampire deck, and it's only about $225 on TCG Player right now. Then again, we saw some amazing cards for dinosaurs today, so you might get serious about building that dinosaurs deck. And if you are, you gotta pick up your Regisaur Alphas. And right now, they're only about $10 or less on TCG Player in some cases, and that is easily the best price I've seen online so far. So check out that stuff. I'll leave a link in the description for you, and I'll catch you cats later. Thanks for watching, my wizards.